This is something that I haven't seen before. Mom is up for probation revocation. She was in some sort of rehab facility with her newborn infant and ended up kicked out of the rehab facility for co-sleeping with her infant after being warned multiple times not to.
What does the Commonwealth have to say?
Your Honor, Ms.
Burton,
Burton
step to your left here, ma'am, a little bit. Mr. Stockton, if you get behind the podium, sorry.
Ms. Burton had a 5-year sentence on receiving stolen property. She was probated. She was ultimately placed into drug court. She became pregnant, had 2 positive drug tests for meth. She was placed in a rehab for pregnant women, had her child successfully. Ultimately, she was released from that rehab because she wouldn't follow her policy guidelines, which was co-sleeping with the child. And there's probably at least 10 references in the notes where she was warned not to do that. And she continued to do that. So she was terminated from the rehab and ultimately terminated from drug court.
She was accused of sleeping with the child?
Yes, their policy at the house was that, as you know, co-sleeping is dangerous when you're sleeping with a premature baby. And she was sleeping with that child, and I've got the records here, and she was warned at least probably 10 times not to do it. And ultimately, they had to discharge her because she wouldn't follow the guidelines.
And Judge, I think the big point is there was no cabinet involvement. There were no charges brought against Ms. Burton. She was sleeping with her child because the child was crying.
Are you testifying here?
Judge, actually, we have a.
We've got the lady supposed to be lined up on Zoom.
She won't stipulate? Let me tell you what, we've got too many cases where children are dying that are premature and people are involved and they sleep with them, or their boyfriend sleeps with them and they roll over and the baby put down on their face and everything. I don't know. I'm not sympathetic for why she was sleeping with a premature baby. But I don't know that she is, but I'll have to have some testimony on the thing, because I'm not accepting what you say or what I think. You know what I mean?
I understand.
Okay, you want to pull, if she doesn't want to stipulate, well,
She's supposed to be on Zoom, Your Honor. We can get that filed up. Miranda Lowry is her name.
okay, well, somebody needs to try to trace her, and we'll come back to your case,
And
okay?
Judge, just a point of order, this is the second time maybe she's going to be available. We were ready for a hearing last fall.
She's on here right now. Lost that argument. Okay, you gonna pull her up? Okay, what's this witness's name?
Miranda Lowry.
Miranda Lowry, would you raise your right hand, please? You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. State your full name, where you work, and what your position is.
Miranda Cheyenne Lowry, and I work at Independence House in Corbin, Kentucky. I'm the assistant director of the program.
We got some kind of audio problem.
Feedback.
It doesn't help you to be up here.
Yeah.
It's not coming from up here.
Okay. Ms. Lowry, what's your title or your qualifications for your position?
My qualifications are licensed professional counselor associate and licensed clinical alcoholic drug counselor.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm having trouble understanding you, ma'am. Is there another speaker system on in your office there?
Can you hear me any better?
Okay, try to say something now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. Now, does your facility, does it house women that are pregnant or have small children?
Yes.
And you have certain guidelines that have to be followed when pregnant women or young women with children are housed at your facility?
Yes.
And could you give us some examples of those in order to protect the woman, the mother, and the child?
To protect the mother and the child, they are not allowed to co-sleep with the children. They have to have eyes-on adult supervision at all times of children. Mom is required to tend to children's needs and request staff assistance when needed.
Okay. Are you familiar with the case involving Amy Burchett?
Yes, sir.
And can you tell us, if you reviewed her records,
I'm sorry, what?
You reviewed her records prior to testifying this morning,
Yes,
okay? And did she come to your facility while she was pregnant or after she had the
she
child?
came while she was pregnant.
Okay. And after the child was born, and did the child stay with her at the facility?
Yes,
And did she have any problems, or did she have any problems complying with the facility's rules?
yes, she did. I had multiple staff reports, and I personally witnessed um, 2 incidents myself.
Instances of what, ma'am?
Her co-sleeping with baby,
Judge,
both times.
At this time I would object. I would ask that the witness be confined to what she testified as to those 2 occurrences. To go into the other alleged occurrences would be hearsay unless those witnesses are available.
It's a business record hearsay and exception, and I can lay the foundation if necessary.
Hey, let's take the time to do that if you want to. Yeah, go ahead.
Ms. Lowry, are records kept at the facility as regards the patients and the children?
Yes,
Are those records made at or near the time the events occurred?
yes,
Is it the normal course of business for the facility to make such records?
yes.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the records have been attached to the Commonwealth's motion be entered into evidence in this case.
Without objections ordered.
Okay. Now, Ms. Lowry, you said you witnessed 2 incidents of her co-sleeping with the child. Is that correct?
Yes.
What would your staff do when she would be co-sleeping with the child?
Staff would intervene, go to her room, remind her that she was not allowed to sleep with the baby, remind her once she had done that multiple times that she was at the possibility of being terminated from the program. I reminded her myself that she was not allowed to co-sleep with the baby and that she would be terminated from the program if it continued.
Okay. Do you have the records in front of you today?
I do.
Okay. Okay. I'd ask you to go to the entry on 12/9/23.
Is that a staff note or a progress note?
That's a staff note by Summer Martin.
Okay, I'm there.
Okay. And does that staff note reflect that Amy was caught co-sleeping with her infant on 12/9 and that she was tried to argue that she was not asleep?
Object, Your Honor. At this point, Mr. Boggs testifying.
Ask her what it says then.
That's what I'm just quoting for the record that's been introduced into evidence.
That's exactly right. But we're gonna go give leeway to the defense counsel on this thing. Let her talk.
Yeah. What does that record say about the co-sleeping Miss Burchett was doing with the infant?
The record states Amy was caught co-sleeping with her infant, stated she was just trying to feed her. She was told that under no circumstances are you allowed to lay down with an infant due to accidentally falling asleep and other safety issues that may arise. Tried to argue that she was not asleep.
And was that signed by Summer Martin on 12/9/23?
It was electronically signed by Summer Martin.
Okay. Then can you go to 12/10/23?
Can you tell me who posted the note?
That's a staff note, 2 staff notes by Summer Martin on 12/10/23.
Yes, sir. Okay, I'm there.
Okay. And what do those notes say?
When staff was performing bed checks, Amy was found laying down with her infant asleep. Client was been told multiple times about the dangers of bed sharing.
And was that electronically signed?
By Summer Martin on 12/10/23 at 9:18 a.m.
Okay. And was there another note from that same date?
Yes, sir.
And what did it say and what time was it?
Client was found asleep with the baby on her chest. They were told to place the baby in their bassinet. Signed by Summer Martin on 12/10/23 at 12:32 a.m.
Okay. Could you go to the next staff note on 12/15/23?
Amy was found laying down with her infant twice during the night. The first time she was told by staff to lay the baby down in the bassinet 3 separate times, and eventually she complied. The second time she was found laying down with the baby. She appeared to be asleep, head laying off to the side, snoring. And once staff got her to respond, she said she was trying to get the baby to sleep. The infant was asleep on Amy's chest. Amy then proceeded to get argumentative with staff, saying she was not asleep and said, "Why are you giving me a hard time?" Staff told her to lay the baby down in the bassinet and continued with bed checks
And that was on 12/15/23,
at 4:03 a.m.
and that was signed by Miss Martin.
Yes.
Okay. Could you go to the staff note for 12/18/23?
By Sherry Davis.
Yes, ma'am. What does that note say? Go ahead.
Staff was doing bed checks. Amy was co-sleeping with baby again. Staff wake her up and told her she could not be sleeping with the baby on her chest. Staff has talked with Amy about this matter. Staff has consequenced Amy for this multiple times. Staff has even had a chair put in Amy's room to prevent this. Amy continues to co-sleep, knowing the dangers of co-sleeping. Electronically signed by Sherry Davis on 12/18 at 12:13 a.m.
Was the chair placed in there so she could sit up in the chair with the baby?
Yes.
Okay. Now, there's another staff note from 12/19/23. It looks like by Jessica Mitchell. What does that say?
While doing bedroom checks, staff found Amy with infant in the bed with her on 3 separate occasions from midnight to 5 a.m. Repeatedly, staff warned Amy and told her she needed to get up with the infant and she could not be sleeping with her. It's too dangerous, only to find Amy having her infant back in the bed with her. Amy told staff several times she would not do it again. Staff told Amy at 5 a.m. she would have another consequence for disregarding staff and continuing to break the rules.
I want to skip over to 12/21 of 23. If you can find that staff note, please.
12/23.
12/20. It's actually, the date is 12/20/23, but it's signed on 12/21 by Sherry Davis.
You said the note was signed on 12/21.
Yes.
Okay. Staff was doing bed checks around 11:20 p.m. Amy had the baby in the bed. Staff told Amy, "You cannot have the baby in your bed." Amy said, "I will put her in her bed." Staff did bed checks again around 11:40. Amy was asleep with the baby on her chest. Staff woke Amy up and again told Amy to put the baby in the baby's bed. Staff has worked with Amy to try and stop this co-sleeping problem. Amy just keeps sleeping with the baby on her chest. Staff has talked with Amy about the dangers of co-sleeping. And that was
Okay.
electronically signed by Sherry Davis on 12/21 at 11:06 p.m.
I know there's a lot more of these, but I want to skip over to 12/27/23, signed by Vanessa Vaughn. Looks like by Jessica Sturdivant. Approver was Vanessa Vaughn.
Okay, you said, and that's on 12/29.
12/27 is the date of it.
Okay, I'm sorry. Staff was sitting in treatment room watching a baby while the mother smoked. Amy's baby was in a bouncer, and she kicked the bouncer with baby in it towards the table, not once but 3 times, and I told her to stop. She laughed and said, "I'm not hurting her." I told her I didn't care, that it was dangerous, and we don't do that. She eventually made it to the table with baby and bouncer behind her in the floor.
Okay. And I'm going to skip over to the end. Was Miss Burchett ultimately terminated from treatment at the rehab?
Yes.
And why did that occur?
On the day of Amy's termination, Amy had a camera placed in her room so that staff could monitor baby more closely. Amy agreed to having the camera placed in her room, and while monitoring the camera, another staff member reported to me that Amy had picked the baby up by the front of its sleeper and had the appearance of a rag doll. Again, this was reported by another staff member to me. At that point,
She was improperly lifting the baby.
yes, she was not supporting the baby's head. And you can see that documented in one of Kristen's notes.
Yeah.
The staff member was Kristen Lunsford. So me and Kristen went to Amy's room, told her, you cannot pick the baby up like that. She said, okay, okay. We left the room. We contacted our program director, Georgia Douglas. I discussed with Georgia incident that had occurred yet again. And so me and Georgia decided to terminate Amy from the program.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
You may,
Thank you, Judge. Ma'am, can you hear me?
if you get over here to the microphone. Okay.
Ma'am, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So I want to talk about some of those notes, particularly progress notes that you and Mr. Stockton didn't talk about. I want you to go to a progress note dated 12/19. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm looking. Who submitted the note?
So you see that progress note?
Who submitted it? Who is the author of the note?
Want to say that was the practitioner. Give me just a second. Let's see. This is signed by Georgia Renee Douglas.
Can I ask for the date of that note again?
Certainly, December 19th, 2023.
I'll let you read it. There's no objection.
No, it's in the record.
It's in the record. You go ahead and read it rather than whatever you want to and ask her to verify it. Okay.
Okay. So, ma'am, if you're looking at this document, Amy's receiving some behavioral health services at this time, correct?
Yes.
She's talking to a clinician about some of her problems.
Yes.
She talks about being tired in that meeting, doesn't she?
Per the documentation of that note, Amy stated, I'm tired, I'm getting baby blues, and I don't mean to.
I'm glad you mentioned baby blues. That was going to be my next question. When a client or a patient there talks about the baby blues, how do you interpret that?
That they may need further assessment if I had been the one that she had been reporting that to, or that they may need referred to another therapist for assessment, depending on who that's being reported to.
And again, ma'am, you have all of Amy's records there in front of you, right?
Yes.
So you would know that she actually saw another clinician by the name of Tim Couch, right?
Yes.
And you would also be aware, being the director, that is it Dr.
I'm not the director.
Well, in your role there, having been custodian, having all those records there in front of you, like you testified earlier, you would know that Dr. Couch diagnosed Amy with postpartum depression, correct?
I can look at the record that was documented by Tim Couch, and Tim Couch is not a doctor.
So what you're telling the court right now under oath is you're not aware of that diagnosis.
I said I can look at that documentation.
Do you have documents? Is it in the record?
It's not in these records.
Well, I'm just asking you, is it the record? There's no reason to have her, the reason I'm asking, there's no reason to sit here and have her look through these records if you know they're not in the record.
They're not in the records.
Okay, so move on.
Go ahead. Ma'am, the staff members that you referenced, are they trained and equipped to deal with patients who have been diagnosed with postpartum depression?
Our staff that I referenced are temporary certified alcohol and drug counselors, as well as temporary registered alcohol and drug peer support specialist. And Summer Martin is a residential tech without licensure from the state.
So I'm guessing that'd be a no to my question.
No.
So if we're looking at all these notes, and I jotted down times as you were going through with Mr. Stockton, that first note on December 9th, and you testified to this, that note was at 1:38 a.m., right?
Can I have a moment to look back at that record?
Absolutely.
You said December 9th?
Yes, ma'am. And actually, while you're looking through those records, because I was going to ask you about all those dates.
Wait,
if you want
wait,
Yeah, I
wait,
wanna
just a
take one question
second.
at a time.
Wait just a second. You can't ask somebody to look through records and then ask them another question while she's looking through them. I mean, multitasking is one thing, but that's ridiculous. So if you want to let her look through the records and find something, we'll wait. We've got all day here.
Okay, I've located that note. And what, can you repeat your question?
that time entry, what is it?
The note was entered on 12/9/23 at 1:40 a.m.
Now I want you to go to that December 10th note that you testified about earlier.
Judge, I'm gonna object. If he's just asking what the records say, that's one thing.
Yeah.
If he's got a question about the
What's
records, that's
what's
another
the
matter.
point here? Get to the point. Ask her. a
Well, Judge,
question.
my initial proffer question was going to be for her to review the records, and I was going to ask if
Now,
all,
50 pages of records here, okay? What is the question?
Judge,
What
I'm gonna
question?
go the timestamp on each entry. She actually
What's the
testified.
relevance of that?
Well, Judge, if we're talking about an individual falling asleep, I think it is relevant to have on the record what time the alleged individual fell asleep. 1:38 a.m., 12:38 a.m.,
Well, it doesn't matter
4:02.
what time she fell asleep, if she's sleeping with a baby, if she's not supposed to. That's the issue. I'm not saying the lady was not sleepy, or she didn't have postpartum, or I don't know what she has. The issue is, these reports say that she was caught sleeping with the baby, and she wasn't supposed to. So I think Commonwealth will stipulate that the timestamps are what they are.
Yes.
Okay. Now, ma'am, I would like for you to go to, again, a note that Mr. Stockton omitted on 12/24, December 24th.
What
And
was
it
the
is
date of
it's an
service?
individual progress note, type of service, info note. Are you there, ma'am?
Yes, I'm here. I'm looking for that note.
And particularly, I want to direct you to what looks like,
Can I ask who submitted the note you're referencing?
this one looks like it was electronically signed by Miranda Yvonne Hamilton on 12/26.
Okay.
So my first question is, who would Miranda Hamilton be?
I'm sorry, I'm still looking at that note, or looking for that note. Is it a transport note?
Says info note.
Okay. I'm not sure I'm at the correct note that you're referencing. Miranda Hamilton is one of our staff at Independence House. At that time, I'm not sure what her credentials were at that time. Her credentials recently changed. I'm not sure if she was counselor at that time or not.
And then that next note on 1227. So the next page. And it looks like that is signed again by Georgia Douglas.
Was there somebody else who signed that note?
That's whose name's at the bottom of the paragraph.
Was there a different author of the note? Okay, I found the note you're referencing.
And you're there at that note, and I'll ask you, in that note, is Amy talking about a medical condition that this baby has?
I did not witness it, but I can happily read this note to you.
Sure.
Amy came to director stating the baby had a severe diaper rash and needed to go to the doctor. Had medicine at pharmacy for rash, but was told by staff she needed a paper before the baby could use it. Director shared if baby had a prescription, she does not need any other information. The prescription was enough verification needed for baby to have the medication. Amy proceeded to show director the rash, which was very red and irritated all through her private areas and lower belly and down her legs. Director asked Amy why she did not tell staff medication was at pharmacy before now. Amy shared she was informed by staff she needed a paper, but would not tell director which staff other than evening shift. Director suggested.
Ma'am, you can stop there just for. So reading that note, Amy's talking about this baby having a medical condition on 12/24, right? A diaper rash. Yes, you read that?
On this date of service was on 12/27.
And this diaper rash, the clinician actually identified it, talked about it being red, right?
Yes. Per the report.
Needing medicine, right?
Per the report, yes.
Fussing on Amy about not getting medicine before 12/27.
I'm gonna object to this line.
What is the relevance of this?
Well,
Well, Judge, we've got
What
it.
is the
two
relevance?
things. It's irrelevant. It's not irrelevant, but he cut her off before he read the rest of
I
it.
want to know what the relevance is of a diaper rash.
Again, Judge, if we've got a mother holding a child, and if I may proffer, Miss Birch is going to testify as to why she was holding the
Why
baby,
she was asleep, why she was sleeping with the baby.
why she was holding the baby.
Why she was sleeping with the baby on these multiple occasions. But she's going to testify, we'll allow her to do that. Okay.
At this point, Judge, at this point, what I'm establishing is
It's
that,
got severe diaper rash and it should have been taken to the doctor earlier and the baby was in bad shape and they didn't provide medical services or she didn't ask for them. That's what you've proven at this point. Go ahead and move on.
ma'am, I just have a few more questions for you. You are a mandatory state reporter, correct?
Yes.
Meaning you see abuse, you are required by law to report it to proper authorities, right?
Yes, sir.
Are your staff under that same oath and responsibility?
Yes, sir.
Mandatory reporters.
Yes.
At what point was the cabinet notified of problems with Miss Burchett and this child?
It is documented in the record by Georgia Douglas. Would you like me to pull up that note and read it to you?
Please. And ma'am, while you're pulling that note up,
No, while she's pulling the note up, you let her pull the note up.
I found the note. The date of service was 12/28/2023. It is an info note under individual progress note. Director Georgia Douglas contacted Whitley County Social Services and spoke to Jason Snell regarding of co-sleeping, propping bottles, and getting baby out of the bed by one arm rather than picking the baby up. Jason informed none of these are reportable offenses to open a case for investigation. That once a case is open for other reasons, they recommended that parents do not prop bottles or co-sleep. Also, if baby was not injured or the intent was not to injure the infant, pulling of the arm was also not a reason to intervene. However, these are not reasons to open a case. Signed by Georgia Douglas, IH Director.
So that last thing was, there was a decision made not to open a case?
Per social services,
And,
per the report in the record.
and again, looking at those instances, at any point did you or any of your staff report any of these sleeping with the child to law enforcement?
No.
Thank you, ma'am. That's all I have.
No redirect.
You may be excused. Thank you for your cooperation. Okay, Mr. Stockton, you have anybody else?
I have no further proof, Your Honor.
You have anybody you'd like to call?
I do judge I guess the one caveat is, if the Commonwealth is known with their proof, I would object at this point, is we've had no testimony from anyone from a special court outlining the termination. All we have is a piece of paper. Mr. Stockton proffered, I know he attends specialty court, so I would think we need someone from special court as well.
Let's take a recess here and we'll get somebody from specialty court to come up here and testify.
I'll have to give Mr. Grimes.
Yeah, we'll do that. So we'll go ahead. What we're gonna do is we'll go ahead with these transported prisoners here. And she can go back there. We'll take a recess in this. Okay, let's go ahead. Mr. Stockton, we'll call your witness.
Call Mr. Cross, Barry Cross.
Mr. Cross, are you there with us?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, will you raise your right hand?
Yes, sir, I am.
You swear the testimony you're about to give us the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do, Your Honor.
You may proceed, Mr. Stockton.
Mr. Cross, what's your occupation?
I'm the program coordinator for Clinton Cumming Monroe for the past 24 years.
For the specialty court?
Yes, sir.
And are you familiar with the Commonwealth versus, are you familiar with Amy Burchett being one of your clients?
Yes, Amy Burke is in my program.
Okay, and that was in Clinton County?
Correct, he was a Clinton County client.
Okay, and you recall that at one point in time during the program, she was pregnant?
Repeat that, sir. I'm sorry. I'm trying to drive.
You recall that during one time in the program, while she was still in the program, she became pregnant?
Yes, that is correct.
Did she fail any drug tests while she was pregnant?
Yes, she did. She actually failed two. I think it's listed on the violation there. It's not, I'm not in front of me because I'm driving.
Okay, your violation report, the termination says she was positive for meth on 6/26/23 and 7/8/23. Is that correct?
That is correct. And
Okay.
she was pregnant during one of them tests. Probably the later test, the later date would be the correct one.
What action did the specialty court take after she was pregnant for methamphetamine twice while she was pregnant?
Well, we decided as a team to send her to rehab for 90 days for protection of herself and the unborn baby. And then she was not unable to complete rehab and then came back. And then the judge and team decided to terminate her.
Okay. And basically was the termination based on the drug tests and the fact that she wasn't able to complete the rehab and
That is
independence?
correct. It was initially started for drug testing and then on the end result is not complying with the rehab.
Okay, I have
Terminate.
no more questions, Mr. Cross.
Mr. Cross, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm doing the best I can to hear you.
No, that's fine. Just let me know if you can't hear me. I just have a few questions for you.
Okay,
So-
go ahead, Jonathan.
So once Amy was discharged from rehab, That was what led to her getting expelled from specialty court, correct?
Yeah, when she was discharged from rehab, she was placed, reported to court, and the team decided to terminate her at that time.
And you testified that she was sent to rehab for 90 days?
For 90 days.
Are you aware of how long she was there?
She was there longer. She ended up staying longer due to the baby.
So she actually stayed longer than the 90 days?
Yes, we recommend 90 days first, but with the baby being born, the rehab said it'd be best to stay longer, so we complied with it.
And for all intents and purposes, Amy's problem wasn't drugs in that 90 days or the whole time she was there.
No, she just had some issues and minor issues, and then the rehab decided to discharge her.
Minor issues and the rehab decided to discharge her.
Yeah. Well, it was more just minor. It's like it was creating behavior issues. It just kept piling up. It's over.
That's somebody.
Wayne County. And finally, Mr. Cross, typically when an individual is terminated from specialty court, in your experience, has that led to revocation of their probation?
Objection. That's no way.
That is not my position. I'm not the Commonwealth
Okay.
or the judge who recommends
Objection
it.
sustained.
That's all I have, Judge.
No more questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you have any witnesses? Ms. Cross, be excused.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Cross, you may be excused. Thank you. You have any witnesses?
Judge, Ms. Berger.
Okay, raise your right hand. You swear your other right hand. You swear the testimony about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing else but.
Yes, Your Honor.
Speak up.
You want to talk louder, Dana?
Okay.
It's voice activated. You've been here and heard all this, right?
Yeah.
I want to start with rehab in and of itself. Did that work for you? Did
Yes, it worked for me.
you get off drugs?
Yeah. Been almost 10 months clean.
And we just heard Mr. Cross talk about the 90 days. How long exactly were you at that rehab?
I was there for 6 months.
They wanted you there 90 days and you stayed double.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what's your child name?
Elizabeth,
How old is she now?
she's 3 months.
How old was she? Let's go back to December. How old would she been back then?
She would have been,
Little?
yeah, she was just born.
Heard a lot about you dozing off and falling asleep. What were you doing at those hours in the morning with your dog?
She wasn't sleeping good, and she's crying a lot, and plus she got the COVID while I was up there.
She got the what?
COVID.
Did you also get COVID?
And she wasn't sleeping good. Every time I lay her down, she'd cry. And the only way she would be comfortable was on my chest. The only way I could get her to sleep and where I could sleep.
And we heard some testimony I read a note about a diaper rash. Tell us about that.
That diaper rash was really bad. It got to where it started getting blisters on her, and I told them about it. And then I told them that she had medicine at the pharmacy, and they said that I had to pay for it, and before I could go get it. But then I went to Georgia about it, and Georgia told me that no, that wasn't right. They were supposed to have that a week ago.
So you went to
Yes, I went to Georgia.
staff before Georgia,
Yes,
and they told you what?
they told me that I had to have money to go get it first.
Did you have any money to pay for?
No,
And I read about, were you also doing counseling while you were
yes,
there at Independence House?
and trauma counseling
Trauma for what?
for my past.
And I'm not gonna have you talk about that today, but did you have any trauma or diagnosis related to your pregnancy or giving birth?
Yes.
What was that?
I went in to labor early, but then they gave me a shot to stop my labor at 5 months. And I was 38 weeks. Now I was 36. And then they stopped my labor, and then then I fell in grease and stuff, and then the next day they took me to the hospital, and that's when I went in labor.
That affect how
Yes.
fragile the little girl was?
Mhm.
Was that going into while you were holding her?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember talking to Mr. Couch?
Yeah,
Who was he?
he's the therapist.
Postpartum, and did he come with that?
Yeah.
I would hate to interfere, but are you leading the witness and is that hearsay? I just asked you, if you don't think it is, proceed. The Commonwealth's not gonna object.
Judge, I agree with
Then
you on
proceed,
both.
then
but yeah.
proceed, then proceed.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Mr. Cat.
Tim Couch is the therapist, and he did tell me that I was postpartum depression because I told him my diagnosis, how I felt and everything, and then he diagnosed me with it.
Amy, while you're at Independence House, you know, they told you, hey, don't do this. Did they give you any classes, any education, anything to train you for parenting? Are they doing those things?
Yeah, there is a class that we do, and it's parenting, but we hardly got to go to it because the woman kept canceling and stuff, so.
So you weren't even able to do that parenting class there?
Mm.
Good, that's all I have.
I've got no question.
I have a couple of questions here. I was looking through the records. There was an allegation that you picked the baby up by one arm rather than picking the baby up like babies are supposed to pick up, that you were co-sleeping in property bottles, getting the baby out of bed with one arm. What was the deal with that?
The one thing is she was choking and it scared me, and that was probably just a reaction.
What was that?
She was choking. Because when she was premature, she couldn't hardly breathe. She already quit breathing on me once.
Hey, Mr. Stockton, you have, Mr. Pena, do you have any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Stockton, do you have any rebuttal?
No.
You want to come up and make your argument?
Your Honor, the Commonwealth and the court is presented with this case because Ms. Birch had a problem with methamphetamines. She had such a problem with methamphetamines, she endangered her child when she was pregnant using methamphetamines. You know, she wasn't punished by being sent to Independence House. The specialty court program was trying to protect her and the child. And then when she gets up there and the baby's born, the baby's a few weeks early. There's at least 10 to 12 instances where she's warned of co-sleeping with the baby. There's also instances documented in the record where she kicked the bassinet when the baby was in it. And then you have the issue where she's pulling the child up with her arm. I don't know if those two allegations are true or not, but I know the co-sleeping is sufficient to cause a problem. You know, having a child is not about convenience. It's not about being able to sleep. I remember when my two children were up here and I couldn't sleep.
Wait a second, I'm having parties.
Yeah, I remember when my two children were born and I'd come to the office and I'd fall asleep in the afternoon because I couldn't sleep. Having a child is not about convenience. It's about protecting your child. And she was warned repeatedly, and she wouldn't follow the guidelines. Now, they can make the rehab out as the villain, but all they're trying to do is protect that child. And all the Commonwealth is trying to protect that child. Maybe she'll be old enough when she gets out of here that the child can help take care of herself, because Miss Birch has proved she can't.
That'd all be a great argument if this was a juvenile dependency neglect action. But this is a receiving stolen problem case. That's what the initial charges were for. That's what the probation was for. And Miss Burchett admittedly had a drug problem. Went into specialty court to address that problem. Did what they said, go to rehab for 90 days. She stayed.
Let me ask you something.
Yes, Your Honor.
She took methamphetamine twice while she was in drug court too, though.
Yes.
Okay, well, we'll skip that part, but go ahead.
And specialty court, again, I'm not going to disagree with Mr. Stockton on trying to protect this mother and the child. So they send her to rehabilitation for, I think what was important, why I did want someone from specialty court, is for 90 days. She stayed 90 days. In fact, she stayed double that. And Judge, what is telling is to go to rehab is to get off drugs. I understand it, and the court can exercise a paternal role, but if we're seeking to send a lady to prison for infractions that the Cabinet for Health and Family Services said, we're good.
They didn't say that.
Judge,
I've got the letter here, what they said. They said there was no intentional acts harm the baby if they found out, so they couldn't open a case unless there was an intentional act. That doesn't mean that she was compliant or that they gave her Mother of the Year.
And Judge, here we stand, Ms. Burchett has already served over 60 days. What I'm asking for and what Ms. Burchett would ask for is for the court to impose that as a sanction and let her be with her child, get the services and the help she needs, and be a productive citizen. Judge, she got off drugs. She testified that she's been 10 months clean. There's been nothing in the record to contradict that. And one of the
Has
exceptions,
she been out? She hadn't been out, has she? She's
not
been
since
in jail.
rehabilitation.
Yes, she's been in rehabilitation and she's been in jail. It's easier to keep clean when you're in jail than it is when.
I had a week out.
Go ahead. Go ahead with your argument.
And Judge, again, the 60 days, if we're looking, does punishment fit the crime? There were no criminal charges brought up for dependency, neglect, abuse, again, Judge. So to circumvent that process and send her to prison on the underlying charges, Judge, she's not gonna get that 60 days back that she's already been away from her child. We're just asking that she be able to spend time with her daughter.
I'll take it under advisement.
Yes, sir.
I hate when they say, I'll take it under advisement. It usually means you're not going to get the answer. Or we're not going to get the answer. They'll get it in writing at some point in time. We'll get it maybe if the records are online, which they're not in this case, unless you're an attorney in Kentucky. And even then, they're not in a lot of cases. So I don't have a good answer for you to tell you what the outcome was, but I can tell you that this took place a week and a half ago, and she is still in custody. So I'm going to assume that the ruling was not in Mom's favor, and Miss Burkett is still, or not still, going to be made to serve out the remainder of her sentence. I'm still going to keep checking. I have an awesome friend in Kentucky who is helping, and we'll see what we can find out for you. Gosh, it's hard. All right. I'll let you know. Take care, guys.